Hi, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can use these steps to get a credit card from Navy Federal with up to a $10,000 limit on it. Now, before we get into the video, let's talk about why you might want a credit card with a higher limit on it. So having a credit card with a higher available credit on it is going to boost your total available credit. When you boost your total available credit, what you're going to be doing is lowering your overall credit utilization. And by lowering your credit utilization, since this is what makes up 30% of your overall credit score, you're going to be boosting your overall credit score anywhere from 10 to 15 points by simply just opening that new account with a higher limit on it and boosting your overall available credit. Now, I'm assuming that most of you who clicked on this video and are watching it are actually already members of Navy Federal. However, if you are not a current member of Navy Federal, I'm going to show you the two ways that you can become a Navy Federal member. The first step is going to be through distant or close family or relatives. So if you have any family, whether they're distant or close, or any relatives that are either active military or retired military, they can actually get you onto Navy Federal going through them. And the second way to get on through Navy Federal is going to be through a roommate or a household member. You have a roommate, for example, who has Navy Federal. They can go into a Navy Federal branch with you, and all you have to do is show documentation proving that you both live at the same address, and then you can get onto Navy Federal through them. And the great thing is once you have Navy Federal, you're in for life. So you don't have to worry about it. It's as simple as doing those two things. I'm gonna cover is gonna be one that takes a little bit of time, but it is going to benefit you. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna open both a checking and a savings account. And what you're gonna wanna do after that is you're gonna wanna set up direct deposit going into your checking. So over the next 2 to 3 months, you're gonna wanna make this your primary bank account. So making sure all of your paychecks are going into this one account, and then having both of those accounts open and in good standing for the next 2 to 3 months. So no negative balances. Make sure you have at least about $100 in your savings at all times, and then the rest can be split up into checking, or you can split it up however you prefer, but just making sure there's some amount of money in each account for the next 2 to 3 months. Making sure you have direct deposit set up with them and that this is your primary bank account for that time period, and also making sure during that time period your accounts don't go negative and they stay in good standing. The next step on this list is going to be making sure that you have 7 or less hard inquiries on your TransUnion credit report. Now, a great free and simple to use tool that you can use to find out how many hard inquiries you have in your credit report is going to be Credit Karma. You can download it for free, set up your account, and after that, it's very easy. It's going to show you your TransUnion and Equifax reports. For this method, we're going to be covering the TransUnion because that's what Navy Federal pulls from. And so what you're going to want to do is create your Credit Karma account and see how many hard inquiries you actually have on your TransUnion credit report. Now, the reason that we're going to want to make sure that we have 7 or less hard inquiries on our TransUnion report is going to be that having 7 or less is going to increase our chances by a lot of actually getting approved for that Navy Federal credit card. Now, if you do have above 7 hard inquiries, what I would recommend doing is actually scrolling through the list, because Credit Karma is going to give you a detailed breakdown of who actually pulled your credit report, giving you that hard inquiry. And what I would do is if you see an account that maybe shouldn't be on there, or maybe it's an account that was closed and is still on your report as a hard inquiry, I would recommend going through Credit Karma and filing a dispute on it so that it can be removed from your credit report. If everything on that credit report is actually accurate and you still do have above 7 hard inquiries, what I would recommend doing is waiting until one of those falls off, giving you that 7 and below number. And depending on when the account was open, hard inquiries fall off in about 2 years. So just waiting that extra period of time until the hard inquiry falls off is going to increase your chances by a lot of actually getting approved for the Navy Federal card. Next step is going to be making sure that you have a lower credit utilization. Below 30% across all accounts is good, but ideally we want to be shooting for below 10% across all accounts, giving us the best chance of actually being approved. How credit utilization is calculated is actually not by the current balance across all of your credit cards, but it's actually going to be something that's reported once a month, every 30 days to the credit bureaus. So again, using Credit Karma, which we talked about earlier, you can actually go into your credit report and find out when each account reports to the credit bureaus. And this is going to be on what's called the statement closing date. That's going to differ from the due date. So you have a due date and a statement closing date. The due date is when your minimum payment or payment is due. And the statement closing date, which is typically 2 to 3 days before that due date, is going to be when your credit card actually reports to the credit bureaus what your active balance on that card is. Once you find out when your credit card actually reports to the credit bureaus, known as your statement closing date, what you're going to want to do next is on that statement closing date, about 3 days before, you're actually going to want to go onto your credit card and make a payment, ideally paying it off in full for the best results. But if that isn't possible for you to do on that month, what you're going to want to do is just make a payment enough to lower your credit utilization below 10%. So if you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit and your balance on it is currently $2,500, that's going to give you a 50% credit utilization. So what you're going to want to do is pay that down to maybe a $500 balance left, giving you an overall lower credit utilization, keeping it right around 10%. So when that credit card actually gets reported to the credit bureaus, it gets reported with a low utilization. And now the next step on this list is going to be actually checking your pre-qualified offers from Navy Federal. You can do this by simply going to NavyFederal.com, clicking on credit cards, and then clicking the pre-qualify me button. Now what this is going to do is it's going to only run a soft pull on your credit, so it's not going to lower your score in any way. It's actually going to let you know if you're pre-qualified for one of the Navy Federal credit cards on this list. Once you get your pre-qualification back, there's going to be a list of credit cards that it's telling you you're pre-qualified for. Typically this could be something like the Cash Rewards card, the Go Rewards card, and then the Platinum card. If you have any of these options available, what I would recommend is either going with the Cash Rewards card or the Go Rewards card, because those are going to be the 2 out of 3 cards that actually are going to give you some kind of cash back and or points back for your everyday spending, which is going to be better than the Platinum card, which doesn't give you anything back for your spending. Now this next step is going to be something that's going to be very crucial, especially if you're someone that is a little bit lower on the credit score side of things. So Experian qualifies a credit score of 670 below as poor or under average credit. So if you're above 670, and I would say if you're anywhere between 700 to 720, then this step doesn't matter as much. But if you were below the 700 range, then this step is going to be very crucial to you. What you're going to want to do is actually apply for the credit card outside of business hours. So you're going to want to apply for the credit card between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Now what this is going to do is, instead of during business hours when you apply for a credit card, you have a manual credit review. And this is going to be by an actual person that goes through your credit report and gives you a manual credit review. Now, during the hours of 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., and this is the reason you want to apply during those hours, is you're going to get an automated credit review. So this is going to be an automated system that Navy Federal has in place to go through and review your credit during those hours that we talked about. Now, the reason that this is going to be really good if you're a little bit lower on the credit end scale, again, below 700, is that this algorithm that they use tends to be more generous, not only with their approval rates, but also their limits. Again, if you were below that kind of 700 range, applying between those hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. is going to be really beneficial to you, because the algorithm that they use is going to be more generous with their approval odds. At first, you're not approved or pre-qualified for a credit card offer. Don't worry, I'm going to be going over what to do next. So if you're not pre-qualified right away for a credit card with Navy Federal, what you're going to want to do is, again, keep that checking and savings account open for the next 6 to 8 months. Make sure during that time period you're keeping your balances in good standing, no negative accounts or anything like that, keeping money in both the checking and savings account. Next step, what you're going to want to do is actually get called their Navy Federal secured credit card. Now, this is going to be a secured line of credit. And the way that that works is you're going to put a deposit on the credit card, usually between $200 to $250. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to pull from your current bank account. So however much money you have in that account is going to be your overall credit limit. Now, what you're going to want to do is use this credit 8 months, and you're going to want to make sure you pay off your balances in full each month, using it, keeping that credit utilization low. And what this is going to do is it's not only going to raise your credit score overall, but it's also going to continue building that relationship with Navy Federal. Navy Federal is a very relationship-based bank. That's why it is one of the best banks to actually get these higher credit limits. But what you're going to do is just use that secured credit card for the next 6 to 8 months, keeping the utilization low, paying it off on time and in full every single month, as well as having those checking and saving accounts open and in good standing during that time. And that's going to build your relationship with Navy Federal. So at the end of those 6 to 8 months, when you go to check your pre-qualified offers again, you actually get pre-qualified offers for those 3 credit cards that we actually mentioned earlier. And then the final step on this list is actually going to be selecting one of those cards. I mentioned earlier, I recommend going with either the cash rewards or the go rewards, because those are going to be the 2 credit card options that actually give you rewards back on your purchases. And then you're just going to follow through on the application, apply, and then once you're approved, if at first you don't actually get that $10,000 credit limit, it's okay, because I'm going to go over on how you can actually increase that credit limit over time. Now, if at first you're not approved for that $10,000 credit limit right away with that credit card, don't worry, because all you're going to want to do is keep that credit card open for 8 to 12 months, keep it in good standing, keep your utilization on the credit card low, paying it off in full and on time each and every month. And then after the first 6 months, what you can do is actually request a credit line increase. Now, the way that I would recommend doing this is doing it either online or through the Navy Federal app. And by doing it this way, you're more likely to get what's known as a soft credit pull as opposed to a hard credit pull. So when you do a hard credit pull, obviously, you're going to lose about 5 to 10 points on your credit score, which is what we don't want. So if we go through the Navy Federal app and the website, we're more likely to get what's known as a soft credit pull, not affecting our credit. Typically what Navy Federal does is they give you maximum about a $4,000 credit limit increase. So after you do that, it's going to tell you if your credit limit increase was approved. If it is, and you only got that maximum of $4,000, don't worry. And after the next 6 months of having that account in good standing and then paying it off in full and on time each month, after another 6 months, you can apply for another credit limit increase, giving you potentially up to another $4,000 credit limit increase. It's gonna be as simple as that, just following these steps that we talked about on this list. With doing that, you're gonna get a Navy Federal credit card with an overall higher starting credit limit. And even if you don't get that $10,000 credit limit at first, don't worry, because like we talked about earlier, keeping that account in good standing over the next 6 to 8 months, after the 6-month period, you can actually apply for that credit limit increase, get your credit limit increase of anywhere between $500 to $4,000, and then you can repeat that process over the next 6 months and request a credit limit increase again after that. If you're interested in my previous video where I went over the best no annual fee cashback cards of 2023, make sure to hit the card up in the top right corner so you can check that video out. If you found this video informative and enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like down below and share it with your friends, as it helps me out tremendously. And if you're interested in other videos where I talk about personal finance and credit tips, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and turn on that post notification so you know every time I upload a new video. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in with me today, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.